Hey everybody, Scott here from Scriptwriter Pro. Welcome to our Facebook Live event. We are going to answer some questions and talk shop today, so let's get going.
Hey guys, Desiree here, Scott's wife. I actually promised last time we would go over a few questions that we missed from a few of you. So we're going to just go back to last week when Sarah asked the question, when you query to managers, do you just cold call to see if they will take a pitch? If there is no submission guidelines, do you just email to the agency website?
Okay, that's a good question. Before I answer that, I just want to say welcome. Feel free to ask questions online. We are here to just answer some things, give some thoughts. I'm a screenwriter like you. I love the craft. I've immersed myself in the craft for over 20 years. And so I'm just here to kind of give you my guidance and answer things from my experience. So Sarah's question about what do you do, how do you approach reps, what do you do through their website if it's unsolicited material not accepted, that sort of thing. That's a good question because of the fact that, a lot of those things are up to prevent themselves from getting sued, right? A lot of times management companies also produce. So trying to hit up a manager with a script that they may already have in development in some way that, that's kind of similar in idea can be difficult. All you can really do is query them, right? Never send an attachment on a pitch. If you're going to pitch someone, send them a good query letter that's punchy, that outlines what your story is, that grabs their attention. We have some blog posts that talk about that, give some examples. But if you need more guidance on how to market yourself, we do have our marketing mentorship program. You get 3 sessions and we kind of go over your material, go through all of your pitching kind of documents and help steer you in different directions as far as how you can get yourself out there and set yourself up for the best opportunity. So if that's something you'd be interested in, check out our website. But it's all about just getting their attention with your idea and your voice. And if it's something they're looking for, then they will get back to you.
Awesome. I just want to mention too, Scott, for everybody that's watching to share as well. And this feed will be up on YouTube at a later time.
Yes, we just actually uploaded last week's Q&A. It's already on our YouTube channel. So definitely let people know if you're enjoying this. Talk to your other writing friends if you think they'll have value in it. And the more people that are here, the more we'll keep doing it. I'm happy to do this if it's helping people.
Awesome. So we have a question from Ron from last week again on Facebook. Ron asked the question, is there any value to have a web page with a synopsis and support info to refer to in an inquiry letter?
Yeah, I wouldn't say so. If someone is interested in what you're pitching them, they're just going to ask you to send stuff. Having a link can also be something that puts red flags up for someone. No one wants to click on a link in an email from someone they don't know. I don't. I'm sure most people don't. So you can let them know. You can say in your pitch, if you'd like, that you have a lot of supplementary documents, or if you're pitching a TV pilot, you can say that you'd be happy to send along the Bible, the pitch deck, whatever you have. But it all comes down to pitching them that concept. If it piques their interest, they're going to ask to read the pilot. If it doesn't, it doesn't matter how many bells and whistles you have in that letter.
We had a question last week from Tim. Tim says, at what point in the writing process is a good time to stop for the day?
Hey, that's a good question. I think I sort of answered how I deal with it a few sessions ago. But one of the best ways to end your day is to stop in the middle of a scene or a few lines from the end. Don't finish that scene, because what it does is just subconsciously you keep playing it in your head and you get excited to go back there and finish it. If you finish a scene, you're complete. You may not have that inspiration as much to get back in. So if you leave a scene unfinished, you're excited to go back and finish it. That's one way. Try not to write if you're getting burnt out. If you're not quite feeling it, my wife dictates all the time. She's always saying period, comma, and so anyways.
So embarrassing.
Sorry about that. But yeah, if I lost my train of thought now. But yeah, if you feel burnt out, if you're at the end of that day and you're like, oh, I got to get another page in, and you're not feeling it, just stop, because it's probably not going to be good. right? You can always do more thinking than writing. That is still putting things together. So I hope that answers that question for you.
Question here from today. Claudio says hello and keep up the good work. Question: Blake Snyder, Dan Harmon, Sid Field, they propose interesting maps for storytelling. Is one better than the other? Should we follow the model step by step? Maybe Tarantino is right. Establish 3 acts and let your fingers do the rest.
Yeah, that's a great question. Really good question, Claudio. The way I look at it is there's really no wrong way unless it doesn't allow you to creatively flow properly. I remember back in the day, early on, I read Robert McKee's story, and it was like reading a physics book as far as I was concerned. It was so over my head. It just didn't connect with me in the way that he put it out there. Now, when I look at it, it's a little easier to understand, but it's pretty heavy. Save the Cat makes it easy. Everyone, Hero's Journey is one of my favorites, but everyone has a different way of breaking down a story. But if you look at them all the same, it's really just about finding what resonates with you, okay? I had stumbled upon this blog many, many years ago. It's called The Unknown Screenwriter. I still don't know who he is. He's in different areas now. You can find him on Twitter, but he instilled this great process for me that just spoke to me so well, and it was the LEAD principle, which is LEAD. So the 4 phases of a character's journey: the loner phase, explorer, activist, death. It follows the hero's journey. It's an easy way to structure a story. I will be doing a YouTube video pretty soon on that actual thing to kind of break it down and make it easy for you to understand. So watch for that. But really, it just comes down to finding something that resonates with you. I learned a great trick from a writer that I was working with, and she broke everything down in five-page increments, and filled things in from there. And I use that all the time now. It's just so much easier to see your story 5 pages at a time, 5 beats at a time. Rather than like, how am I going to fill this 60 pages, right? You can focus in, what do I want to happen over these next 5 pages? What emotional aspects am I going to tackle? Who am I going to see? So it really comes down to reading them all, right? Read every single one, and then find the one that works for you. In my outline tool that I use, that I built, it's probably got elements from 6 or 7 of those, all put together in a way it speaks to me the best. But follow basic structure. It's been there for over 100 years. It still works every day. Just don't balk at it. Just embrace it and lean on it. It's your friend.
Question from Stephanie Banks today. Stephanie asks, are you a WGA member? And if so, what are the pros and cons of becoming a member?
Right, Stephanie. Hi, mentorship client of mine. Yeah, I'm currently not a WGA member. I have not hit that pinnacle of high-level WGA signatory filming yet. I've got one in the pipeline that is hopefully going to be that one that kicks it over. But I'm kind of that that blue-collar worker writer. I write for a lot of independent stuff, independent producers. Even the movie that I produced, it was produced in the Ukraine, so it's not a union piece. I've done a lot of stuff for producers all over the world, and those don't qualify for WGA. So I would take it in a second, because number one, it protects you for your minimums, for what you are going to get paid. You're going to get paid as you should. You will be respected more in that manner. It comes with a lot of perks, pension and benefits and all these kind of things that a union provides. But it also adds a strong legitimacy to who you are. But once you're WGA, you can't do anything else. You can't do independent stuff. You can't do jobs that are outside of that, because you're going against the union, you're going against your guild and taking those jobs, right? And so I really enjoy those jobs. So for now, I'm happy to not be WGA, because I can take what I want. I can work on what I want. Things come to me from smaller levels, and I'm happy to do the work if it resonates with me. But yeah, I'll jump in a heartbeat, because if you're working for a WGA signatory producer, you are going to get paid significantly differently than you would without. So if you have the opportunity, and any big deal is going to just put you there, right? You get a big deal, you get a production put together, it's a high level thing, you're automatically in the game.
Just to touch on what you talked about previously, Tim just wants clarification quickly. Tim says, can you repeat that character trajectory with the activist and death of the protagonist?
For sure, yeah. I'll take a few minutes to explain that. So it's essentially the 3-act structure. Okay, you've got your first act, second act is the big one, and your final act. So the lead principle just cuts the second act in half. So you've got your 4 pieces, right? It's still that basic act. So in that first act is your loner phase. That's when your character is alone in some way. Doesn't mean they don't have anyone around them, but they're keeping to themselves, or their walls are up, or they're an orphan, or, you know, like any Disney movie, right? You know, they're alone in some way. They're fighting their way through life. Well, it doesn't matter the genre. It doesn't matter, right? Whether it's comedy, horror, drama, it doesn't matter. They're a loner in some way. They are alone. And then that first act point forces them, right? And whether they first reject it or finally accept it, but they are forced to go a new direction, as we all know. And in that second phase, they begin to explore that new world. So they shifted to their explorer phase. They're no longer alone. They've got people around them. They've got people helping them, fighting against them. They have to rely on others. They're no longer alone. They're not a loner. They're exploring that world. And in that first half of the second act, up to that midpoint, they are picking up different tools. They're learning different things that they will then use later, right? This is where all your setups happen. They pick this piece of information up, they learn this skill, they take this tool, whatever it's going to be, this relationship, okay? But they're exploring that world, all right? Then they hit that midpoint, and that is where they must become the active force of their story. They must. Every movie, your hero has to become active. No two ways about it. Otherwise, it's boring. No one cares about someone who isn't taking control of their own life, right? So they hit that wall. Something major happens that forces them to say, you know what? I can't just do this anymore. I gotta beat this. This is my story. I need to win this story. So they become that activist, and during that phase, they use those tools that they picked up, that knowledge, those relationships. They use those along the way, and they start to grow in their momentum. They start to get stronger. They start to be confident, and then bam, they hit that other wall that throws them down a flight of stairs, hits them down to the rock bottom where they have to stand up and get up. And this is where their flaw plays in. This is the death phase of the story. And that doesn't mean that they die or someone dies. That doesn't always have to happen. But the death portion means that they are going to put something to death in their life. They are going to move on from that memory of tragedy that's holding their back. They're going to put their walls down. They're going to stand up against someone. George McFly is going to stand up to Biff, right? Like you put death to something in that story so that the character can move on. This is where they have to overcome their flaw, and just otherwise they can't win. They have to realize, I have to put this behind me in order to step forward in a better way. So that's kind of the basic rundown, and like I said, I'm going to expand on that in a YouTube video to kind of give you more details. But if you look at any movie, right, and you really break it down, that's what they all follow. It's just done in a unique way. But if you follow that, I guarantee you, if you follow that, your story can't fail at that core structural level. So I hope that helps.
A question from Bear. Hello, thanks for taking the time to answer our questions. Truly appreciate this amazing opportunity. I recently finished a polished screenplay that has been reviewed and edited. I have no representation, and I was thinking about reaching out to talent managers to get representation. Do you think I need more than one complete screenplay under my belt to begin looking? I have a few script treatments done for other projects, but this is the only thing I have complete.
Yeah, good question, Bear. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for asking that. Yes, essentially, you have to have more, right? One screenplay is great, okay? But it's also your first screenplay. And usually your first screenplay isn't great, right? It's not your best. You're still learning. You're still putting the pieces together. But at the same time, a representative needs to know how to sell you, right? Yes, it's part of putting spec scripts out there to try and sell them, but it's also, hey, this producer's looking to hire a writer who's really good at this. I got that writer, bam, writing assignment, right? So that rep needs to know how to sell you, how to package you, where you fit on the roster. They also need to know that you're not just a one-trick pony. Because anyone, pretty much anyone, if they wanted to, they could sit and write a full screenplay, right? You can. The tools are out there. There's websites. The information is there, right? You read Save the Cat, and you can pretty much put a movie together, cookie cutter style. Doesn't mean it's going to be great. I'm not saying, Bear, I'm not saying that about yours. You know, it could be wonderful. But you need more. You need to hone your talent. You need to understand who you are as a writer, work on your skills. So a rep is going to want to see that. Plus, a rep needs you to be creating new material every 4 to 6 months. There's a quote, I don't know who said it, but a writer's greatest currency is an excellent finished screenplay. If you don't have finished screenplays, you don't have anything to sell. You can't hang everything on one script. So, keep writing. You don't necessarily, see, this is the big misconception out there too, is a manager isn't going to make your career, okay? They're not. A manager can help you get scripts places, right? If you have a manager and you say, oh, I want to get this to this producer, you call your manager, hey, I want to get this to this producer, he'll get it there. She'll get it there. It'll happen. But a lot of the work that I have got over my career here so far has just been my own peddling, hitting the concrete, sending out emails, finding, choosing who I'm pitching to and pitching them directly because I believe they will love the project. Word of mouth, fans of my work who have read my work and contact me and say, hey, I read this script, I'm looking for a writer, are you available, let's talk. That doesn't come through a manager, right? I still have to give my manager his commission on that because he's my manager and that's our relationship. But a manager doesn't necessarily just make you work, right? If you're in those big leagues, right, where you're in that Hollywood studio system, then yeah, your manager is going to be probably creating a lot more excitement. It's their job to kind of pump you up and get you in with people and that kind of thing. And your agent's going to be working and throwing scripts all over town. That's what's going to happen. But it's all baby steps, right? It takes a long time to get to that place. Yes, we always hear, oh, overnight success, brand new writer, just sold their script. I guarantee that person's written whatever, 5-10 scripts, and they've been doing it for years. It's not like they just overnight wrote a script and sold it the next day, right? They've taken their time. They've got their, they've got their work ethic. They're putting in the hours, right? Putting in the reps. But yeah, don't think you can't try and sell something to someone without a manager, right? Producers make movies. Managers don't really make movies. Producers do. So get your script to producers. Pitch to those producers. Don't think you can't. There's lots of, you shouldn't write a high-level Hollywood movie and that be the only movie you have. You should have other screenplays at different levels. Ultra low budget, mid-budget, and then approach those producers who make those levels of movies. Inktip is a great example of that. Inktip isn't Hollywood. Inktip are the middle ground and lower level producers who make movies, right? Your first movie isn't going to be a Marvel universe movie, right? It's going to be probably some gritty independent film. So get them written, get them done, get them out there.
Just to kind of somewhat touch on that, Yana asked the question, I have a musical satire script that's written in modern Shakespearean rhyme about an Eastern European girl and her clueless immigrant adventures here in the U.S., where she accidentally almost saves the country from its present-day plights. This sounds interesting.
Yeah.
This is my first feature, and I don't have any contacts in the industry, but strongly believe in it. Any tips on how to best shoot at getting it done are appreciated.
Okay, well, it sounds fun. First of all, it's unique, it's fresh, it's original. It makes me think, hey, that's interesting. I'd take a look at that if I were looking for a movie. But yeah, I mean, if it's your first feature, first of all, don't tell anybody this is your first feature. For all of you writers out there, don't approach someone and pitch your script and say, this is my first feature film. Because they're just going to automatically just assume it sucks. Right? They're going to say, well, no thanks. Give me your 10th one. Right? So don't say that. First of all, just don't say that to anyone you're pitching. Okay? But, being that you have no contacts in the industry, you have to push your way in. This isn't an industry with open doors. You have to throw your screenplay at that door enough times that it starts to split open. Right? You have to push your way in. It's the only way to do it. No one's going to help you just to help you. That's not how it goes. You forge relationships with other writers. You you pitch producers, you put your stuff everywhere you can, right? You put it on Inktip if you can, you put it on Blacklist if you can, you put it anywhere you can post stuff. ISA, there's lots of resources out there for you to actually get your stuff out there to people you normally wouldn't. Virtual Pitch Fest. You can go on there and pitch people that normally you need a rep to do so. Use it. Things cost money. That's just how it is. So invest in yourself and try to get your stuff out there. The thing to keep in mind is a movie, movie like that, a musical satire written in Shakespearean language in present day, that's not for everyone, right? Not everyone's looking for that movie. But you can't find that person unless you pitch everyone possible, right? So you look for people who might make that kind of movie. You look at a movie similar and you look at every single person involved in it and you start to dig into who they are and look them up and find their information and go to town on impressing them. My best friend, he's an actor, and I'll never forget, he was first, you probably hear me say about in a different way, because I originally hail from Canada. Proud of it. Geography does not define talent. Don't let anyone tell you that. It doesn't. There's so many great Canadians, and everyone loves them. You can list them. But he was out in Vancouver trying to get an agent, and he wanted this one agent, top agent, biggest agent there, biggest talent agent there. And he wanted to be repped by her because he knew that would help his career. And so what he did is he took time to get to know her, to ask people questions, people who knew her questions, really kind of get into her. And he found out that her favorite book of all time was Great Expectations. And so he went and he found a first edition, it obviously wasn't like a super expensive one, but he found a really nice copy of that book, and he mailed it to her. And he said, you know what, I think me and you would work great together, blah, 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 blah. And she signed him. You have to be creative. You have to do your homework. You have to get to know the people you're pitching. If you're pitching a producer and you don't know all the movies they made, then know them, right? See if they're going to make your kind of movie. If you get in a conversation, you can then say something. And don't just say, oh, I loved Deep Impact. It was so freaking awesome. Right? You're gonna be specific about it. You know, talk about really cool moments or cool scenes, or you want to let them know that you care enough to take the time. So if you're pitching people, make it personal, right? Don't just do your blank form that everyone's gonna get. Try and be unique, okay? You have to try and get your script out there, or there's no point in even writing it.
Awesome. I just want to mention that we're going to be here for probably another 25 minutes or so, just so everybody knows. Any questions I don't get to, we will definitely get to next week. We'll start off the same way we did today. We do have Trish Dotson in the house.
Hey, Trish!
Trish says, hi, Scott. Along the lines of multiple subplot scripts, like Love Actually or Magnolia, can you have multiple protagonists, and does each subplot line need to be able to stand alone outside the script?
That's a great question, Trish. Trish is my very first mentorship client a couple of years back. She's doing great. She's got a manager. She's got an agent. She's got a brilliant voice. Great romantic, historical author. Anyways, she's really good. So good to hear from you, Trish. Okay, yeah, those kind of movies are, everyone loves those movies, right? Richard Curtis is great at them. Valentine's Day, Love Actually, Magnolia. So you'll find that a lot of those movies, Pulp Fiction, right? A lot of those movies are written by their director, right? Because it's hard for someone to understand the vision of a movie like that a lot of the time. But the tricky part of that is your characters need to connect somehow, right? You can't, and I just read a script yesterday that dealt with the same thing, where you have all of these characters and there's a connection there, but we don't quite see it off the start, right? And we get to know this character, that character, these ones here. We see a little bit of a cross connection, but we're not quite sure how deep it goes. And by the end of it, you see that full connection to how all of these people are connected. I think that's the trick of a story like that. If you're going to write a story with all those plots that eventually connect, you need to be really confident in how they come together and that there's a reason for it. But the trick to it all is emotional connection. That's the trick to any movie. Don't let anyone ever tell you different. Okay, I'm not saying it's gospel, but it's important. Emotional connection. If you think of Love Actually, and someone to say to you, tell me the best scene of that movie. Tell me what scene stands out to you. pretty much everyone is going to say the scene where the guy comes with the cards and he's flipping them by and he's saying that to her he is perfect, right? To him she is perfect. That's the moment. And the reason that moment is there is because we have emotionally invested in why that guy won't be around her. It's all building the entire time. So when we get to, and if we didn't get that connection, if we didn't pick up on that, if there wasn't emotion invested where she's upset, he's upset, there's jealousy, what is it? If all those emotions aren't flowing, when he shows up with those cards, it won't matter. We won't feel it. But we know there's something there because it's at the core of the story. And so making sure that each of your plot lines, your subplots, right? You're going to have usually your main focus anchor, and then you're going to have your subplots around that all converge. But you need to make sure that each of those plots are given enough time and attention so that we can emotionally ground with those characters. Because if we disappear from them for too long, by the time we come back, we'll have disconnected because there's so much going on. So they're very tricky to write. I definitely wouldn't say for your first script, write something like that, because it's very tricky to know how to piece it all together and make sure that structure flows and the characters and all of those connections. But I think if you just keep emotion at play and don't try to do too much and make the most out of the moments we have and then find a really clever way to connect them all in the end, I think that's the, off the top of my head, that's the trick to making something like that work.
Okay, we have John Allen here again. John says, hey Scott, other than the Scriptreader Pro Manager list, which is a great resource, are there any other good resources for finding managers who are accepting submissions?
Probably not.
Probably not.
You really, no one really has like here's an Excel spreadsheet of everyone you can contact. You got to build your own, right? It's doing the work. It's saying, okay, for the next 2 weeks, all I'm doing with my writing time is research. I'm going to get an IMDb Pro membership, which is cheap. I'm going to go on there and I'm going to look up every single writer of every movie I know. If you look up a movie, you look up the writer, you click on them, you look at the rep, you click on them, there's their management. You make a list of 250 managers. You find out where they are, what company they're with. You dig in, how does that company set up their email system? How do they formulate those email addresses? Try and find that out. Try and see if you can connect the dots. Try and find out who else that manager reps. Look through that list, right? And nobody takes, some people take unsolicited submissions, but just, you have to remember that in the business, everyone's connected. So, for example, my manager, right? He'll read a script that comes to him from someone that he knows, but if someone hits him up and just emails him, if it interests him, he'll say, hey, send me the script, give me some time, I'll give it a read, right? But he also has this network of people where everyone is connected. And he knows what these women are looking for, what these guys are looking for. He knows what everyone's looking for. If he reads a great script, he'll throw it out there and say, hey, this script, I don't have room for this, but here, it's great, read it. People in the business are connected. So to get a cold email from someone pitching you something where you've already got a handful of clients, you've got scripts going all over the place, you've got people handing you scripts all the time, you've got producers hitting you up and saying, hey, here's a good script I read, give it a read, they're looking for a rep. That's what you're facing, right? So your only way to get through is to try and break that door down, okay? I said this before, but I think I said it in one of our other things, but there's a manager on Twitter, he's very active. I don't know how to pronounce his name, so I'm not going to try. But he has a lot of clients that landed on the annual blacklist, right? The list of all of the inner workings of Hollywood, their favorite scripts they read that year, right? Anyways, he had a client show up on the blacklist. And he repped her 6 months prior through a query. So she sent a query to him. It obviously made him pay attention. He read the script, thought it was gold, repped her. Her career is now flourishing, right? All from a query letter. I got my first manager from a query letter. I got my second manager from a query letter. Both places did not take unsolicited material submissions. I pitched them anyways. The worst thing they can do is junk it or get back to you and say, sorry, we don't take unsolicited material. But if you're on your game and you're ready for any opportunity that comes at you, you'll be ready, right? Focus on boutique managers, boutique agencies. If you shoot for Circle of Confusion, you're probably going to have a hard time getting through that door because they are repping A-level writers already, right? You're going to be, even if they like your writing, you're going to be a little fish in a pond that still, you're going to take 5 years to prove yourself, to have them actually do something for you. Whereas a boutique manager is all about the client, the content. They're going to work with you. They're going to be your champion. I've been at a big agency, and I was a nobody. And I was constantly feeling like I was just getting shot down with every idea. I wasn't getting attention. It would take 7 days for an email to come back. And I just said, enough. There's no point in having this because I can do things myself that they're telling me, no, don't do that because wires will get crossed. So I left that and I found a boutique manager that actually was passionate about me, who became my champion, who wanted me to succeed beyond anything. So you need to make sure that your expectations are in the right place, okay? If you have something like, I just placed as a top 10 finalist in the Nickel Fellowship, everyone's going to read your letter if that's your subject line. Doesn't matter who they are. So keep your expectations in the right place as well.
We have quite a few questions coming in.
Okay, we'll speed up then.
Scott tends to ramble a lot, so I keep giving him like motions, nicely saying shut up and stuff. And I mean, I've been told from week to week that I shouldn't do that, but now I'm telling you to shut up a little bit so we can continue.
Okay.
We have a question from Carlos Wayne. I'm 50. I just started screenwriting at the university in UK, and my goal is to become a script reader.
Okay.
How do I start? Thank you.
Script reader, I would say to start doing coverage on every single person's script you can get a hold of. Start offering to people, hey, can I read your script? Can I read your script? Start practicing coverage, writing coverage, breaking it down. Not everybody can be a script reader because it's not just reading the script and then just writing a synopsis in here. You have to be able to identify what works and what doesn't in a script, or else you can't be trusted, right? You have to have the mind for development. And not everyone has that, and it's kind of an innate quality. But I would say to start, just start reading a lot of screenplays. Asking people, hey, have you ever got coverage on a script? Can I read the script and read that coverage so you can see how it works? So that's probably a good first step.
Tyson asked the question, I have pitch sessions coming up. The platform suggests only 2 pages for the pitch. I also created a pitch deck with visuals and budget estimates and cast proposals, but it's longer and goes against the platform rules. I feel the pitch deck would help sell the pitch. What is the best approach for this situation?
Okay, best approach. Piece of advice. If you feel you need a pitch deck or a Bible to sell your pitch, it's not a good pitch. You should be able to go into that meeting and say, hey, sit down, because I'm going to just blow your socks off. You're not going to believe what I'm going to tell you. That kind of energy, right? And you sit them down and you say, hey, look, think about this. Imagine this. What if this? What if this? And then this, and then this, and then bam, that's my movie. That alone should be enough to get them to want to read it if they're looking for that, right? A lot of time a pitch is about you, right? It's about how you present that material. It's about your passion, your excitement, your interests, your personal aspects. Make it personal. Make it so personal, because then they feel that they're getting something from you. Explain why you wrote the movie, right? I wrote a movie about a woman who finds a boy living in the woods with a pack of wolves, and she decides that she's going to try to help him because she wants to keep him, because this couple lost their child and they couldn't get past it. And that came from a type of personal experience of mine, and I shared that. I opened up with that in my pitch, and every eye in that room was just on pins and needles waiting to hear what happens because of my personal setup. So be personal about it. Don't rely on your additional material. It's concept, concept, concept. Character, character, character.
Rachel Ritchie says, for new creative teams and writers who are fresh to the industry, what advice do you have for finding peers to read and give feedback on each other's material to help us prep before making an investment and getting professional feedback from Scriptreader Pro and entering contests?
Good question. Look in your area for local writing groups. Look online. Join. There's lots of, like Facebook, for example. There's lots of Facebook groups out there for writing. There's tons of them. Just start being open. But the number one thing, read. Offer to read. If you can't sit and read someone's screenplay and give them feedback that may help them make their script stronger, point out issues and holes and problems and things that didn't work, if you can't do that, who's going to do it for you? I wouldn't. If you won't read me, I'm not going to read you. So put yourself out there, invest that time, and that makes connections. And if you read someone and they're no good, if you just think, oh my gosh, this is crap, then don't ask them for their feedback. Because it's probably not going to be good. If you don't think their writing's good, their feedback probably isn't going to help you. So try to build a circle of writers that you can respect and trust and believe in, okay? As far as feedback goes, not everyone can give feedback. A lot of writers have a hard time distancing themselves, and instead of saying, oh, okay, wow, so if I wrote this, if this was me, I would do this and this and this and this, right? You don't want to do that. You want to find people who are going to say, okay, so I see what you're doing here. I can understand the vision you have. These are the issues, right? So you need to find, and that's why professional feedback can sometimes just give you so much more in one set of feedback than 10 others of other writers who are at the same level as you or below just can't give you. So that's that.
Jen says, how do you know when a script is finished? I keep thinking I'm finished and then I keep coming back and messing with it. How do you know when it's at a point that you can shop it?
Perfect question. You are at that point when all of your so-called rewrites, you've changed like 7 words, right? If you go in and here's a good line of dialogue change and I'll change this, you're done, okay? Unless you're changing a major plot piece or structural thing or changing a character, you're done. So you need to stop and walk away. You can tweak a script forever. It's not going to change once it's at a certain point. Along the journey, your script is going to change. The final product you say is done is not done. The minute someone else comes into that, the minute someone options it or a producer's interested or an actor wants to be on it, they're going to have so many notes for you and it's going to change. So your goal is to stop and say, okay, I can't change this anymore. This is the best version of this story in the way I want to tell it. I'm done. And trust it and put it out there.
Well, and sometimes changing it too much also makes it worse in the end.
That's right, because you're too close to it, right? Best to, if you're at that place, just get some feedback from people and see if they feel it's ready.
Byron says, are there free resources to reach out to producers? I know you did touch on this in past sessions.
There's no free resources, no. The freest, the most inexpensive resource is yourself, right? IMDb Pro is probably your best place because it's not that expensive. It's like $10 a month or something. And all of the information is there. You just have to do the homework.
You're actually done now?
I'm done that one.
Wow, impressive. Okay, Nicholas says, hi Scott, thank you for doing this live session. Apart from my screenplays, my features, I have a concept for a 5-minute web series, and I would like to explore how I can develop it and move forward with this new, for me, format.
Yeah, web series are different, and I mean, it's the way of the future in many ways, right? It's a way for creators to put their content out there and make a splash. A lot of the time, putting together a web series is all about getting yourself highlighted, right? It's not like you're going to make a web series and it's going to just bring you a ton of money and success, but it might lead to something. So you're showcasing your voice. You're putting it out there hoping it'll turn into an actual, a network is going to pick it up or a streamer will develop into something bigger. So it's a matter of thinking of it of, how is it going to help me? How is it going to let my creative juices flow? Can you make it on your own? Can you get together with your friends with your iPhone on the weekend and make it? Try and do that kind of thing so you can just put it out there, right? It's so easy. Anyone can put content online. It's just a matter of what's the point of that content, right? Why are you doing it? Just make sure you have your goals in line of how you want it to do, what you want it to do for you.
We have about 5 minutes, and I think we should probably be able to get through these.
Okay.
We have the question, how do you make a good first impression with producers that you haven't met?
Just be gracious. Make yourself seem like you are open to collaboration, that you're not precious about your stuff, that you just want to have a conversation. You just want to be easy to talk to. Just don't be nervous, right? Just think of them as they're just a friend of yours that you're chatting with. You need to make a relationship before you actually need to sell something, right? If you can make an impact on someone and they remember you, then when you hit them up and say, hey, remember me? We met at this bar. We were, chatting about our kids. I've got a new script that I think is right up your alley. They're going to remember you. So just be casual. Don't be like creepy and super fanny or, weird. Just just unless you're weird, then you're in trouble. But otherwise,
Nice.
just kind of be yourself if you can, and just you're creating those relationships, right? You're just like in business, right? You're just wanting to connect.
Jen asked the question here. I've written a feature for 2 actresses who are in a Netflix series. I have a little bit of a relationship with them over social media, and they're interested and have asked me to put the script into their manager's hands. But what else should I be doing now? Should I be trying to pitch managers, directors? I don't want to be sitting still.
You can't pin everything on one lead, right? If something happens that one of these actresses all of a sudden has to go and do something else and she can't even be involved anymore, then what? You've put all your resources there. So keep pitching, and when you talk to people, you can say, yeah, so, just so you know, so-and-so is interested in this, right? I've been in touch with this person's manager. They're currently reading the project, right? That's a way to kind of try to pitch to your own management options. Hollywood is about perception, right? If some person served coffee to some assistant director on Marvel Avengers one day, they're going to tell everyone they know they worked on Avengers with that person. Because it's perception. You want people to know it. So a lot of it is just making sure that you're setting yourself up to be seen in a certain way. And anything you can do to add credibility to yourself on a pitch or conversation is going to help. So so look elsewhere as well. Use that momentum. Concentrate on that, but don't have it be everything. Get it out there elsewhere.
Vic asked the question, why do producers and studios allow the HW lawyers to run and suppress their abilities to review stories, especially since they are enforceable NDAs?
Well, they're afraid to be sued, obviously. And I think it's because no idea anymore is original, right? I see things all the time that I'll see a scene in a movie, I'll be like, well, I wrote that pretty much exact scene. Or that I had that concept, I've already started outlining it, that's my concept. Right? And so the risk of those companies to then take that original material and open themselves up to someone who may be crazy, right? It's just a risk. But a large part of it is Hollywood's a machine, right? I heard this on the Script Notes podcast a long time ago, but they were talking about how they had conversations with people at the studios, and of all of the studios, they had 2 slots for original films outside of everything they already have going. So of the 6 studios, that means they had 10 or 11 spots for original movies. And how many scripts are out there? Right? So those original movies are probably just going to come from within the system anyways. They're not going to be some no-name person in the middle of nowhere that someone just picked up their script. So don't concentrate on Hollywood. If that's how you see it, don't concentrate on it. Look at independent. Look at outside of Hollywood. People are making movies all the time. Connect with those people, make relationships with those people, and that's where you'll find your home.
We're going to finish up with Claudio here, and then we'll get to Wolfman and my buddy for Shizzle's
back
from last week. Those 2 will definitely be answered next week because we're running short on time. But Claudio asks, to use or not to use a narrator? I write horror films. It might not be a good idea.
Narrator's tricky. It has to have something to say. Don't believe anyone that says, oh, you can't use voiceover, you can't have a narrator. Most of the most successful movies had a narrator, right? Forrest Gump is narrated. Wolf of Wall Street, brilliant narration. So it works when it works. That narrated voice has to be there because it won't be as good without it. You have to make it own the story. And use it consistently. I read so many scripts where it opens with a narration for a couple pages, and then we don't hear that voice again until the end. You have to have it consistently through, and it needs to be a unique voice that's offering something to make the story better, juicier. Look at Stand By Me. That's one of the greatest movies, and it's an amazing voiceover because it's an older point of view of the main character. So we're getting a deeper insight into what his experiences are and how he sees all of these situations. So without that narration, it wouldn't have been as good. So don't let anyone tell you can't. People say don't do it because most of the time it sucks. It's just there blatantly giving us information. The writer doesn't know how to give us otherwise. It needs to be done with finesse. It needs to make the story better. So horror movie, I'm not sure if a narration will work because it's all about that visceral feeling that is given there, and it's hard to be afraid if someone's talking over your shoulder. But yeah, narration, flashbacks, use flashbacks when they work. All those little things that people say don't do, you can do them, but you just have to do them effectively. All right? So that's it.
That wraps up our time here, Scott.
All right.
I just want to mention that we're going to be in the same time, same place next week. Different hat.
Yes.
Different hat, always different hat. But we will be here same time, same place. I will get to those 2 questions we didn't quite get enough time for. Those will be the first ones up next Thursday.
All right.
Anything else you want to add?
No, thanks for coming. Keep telling your friends about it if you find it useful. If I say something that you think is bull, then I have no problem with that, right? I'm just here to share my opinion based on my experience, and not just mine. The advice that I give is drawn from all of the people I know who are working, who are struggling to work, who are struggling to keep working. I ask people a lot of questions. If I have a question for someone, I will ask them. I'll just reach out, and they'll usually give me an answer. So I'm always building my own experience for myself, and then I'm just sharing that with you. I'm not just some voice in the darkness that's spouting off just my own personal opinion based on nothing. Okay, so, but if it doesn't resonate with you, leave it. That's the great thing about advice. You don't have to always take it. It's someone's advice. So if it helps you, great. If you want to reach out, you can find me through Scriptreader Pro, and we'll be back next week again. We'll be uploading this on our YouTube channel. We've got a lot of YouTube videos coming. There's a new one from Julian on there on our YouTube channel and on our Instagram and Facebook. All about creating great short story ideas, how to find your short story ideas, your short film ideas. So check that out. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll be back for you next week.
Thanks.
All right, write hard.
Thanks, guys.